ask a child to draw, and almost surely they'll come up with vibrant colors and whimsy creatures. A child thinks and imagines in ways that adults have forgotten to. I'm sure every parent out there has preserved their child's first and even consecutive drawings. But have you heard of an organization preserving them? Children's Design International Collection is a Canada based nonprofit that strives to be the point of reference for the conservation of children's expression. Because children's art not only has the creative expressions of children, but also serves as a rich resource for educators and researchers. Extremely interesting, and I'm very interested in talking to today's guest. His name is Léo Beaulieu, and he is the founder, I hope I pronounce it right, and he is the founder of Children's Design International Collection. Welcome to the podcast, Léo.
Hi, Tess. Thank you for inviting me. That's lovely.
First, please accept my admiration for your choice of work. I know you work in the schooling system. I know you started this on a voluntary basis, and this entire nonprofit works towards conserving children's art. So, when did you feel that you wanted to do something about this?
It occurred to me over a long period of time, and really it all started in my college years when I studied for a couple of years of special education. I think the seed was planted right there because I had a teacher who was doing work teaching at college and doing family counseling, and she was analyzing children's drawing, and she showed me the basis of looking at child art at that time. And after college, I moved on to university and also in a career in arts administration. And I worked with professional artists for over 20 years. And when I was working in the art field and art management, this was always in the back of my mind, the relationship between childhood and artists themselves. And eventually, I had a career change in the mid 2000 when I moved on in working with the school system. And then I was exposed to teachers and kids from kindergarten all the way to the end of the high school. During all those years, I had also discussions with a good friend of mine who's also a contributor of the collection, whose background is industrial psychology. And she has two kids, and she kept encouraging me to do something about this idea because I told her, I said, there's something I've kept looking for, and this is this type of collection, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And she really pushed me, encouraged me, said, Leo, you got to do something about that. And eventually, I made it a priority to say, okay, this project has been on my shelf for many years, and I'm going to do something about it. So I talked to a few colleagues, teachers at the schools, and we together incorporated the organizations in 2018. We incorporated in 2018, became registered charity that same year. But before that, there was like a couple of years of planning that was done, during which I spoke with some, advisors, and I remember this discussion with one particular historian, and I remember the sparks in the eyes of that historian I spoke to when I said, "Hey, I want to do this," and he told me, "Hey, okay, never heard of something like that. That's cool." And so off we were doing, building bylaws, incorporating, making plans, developing policies. Okay, let's be serious about it and put something in place. And like you said, you mentioned the word resource, and that's really the key word. We want to build a resource. We want to make something available, a tool available that includes as diverse a collection as possible, and to really make that available to different kind of peoples.
Right. So, are you the only organization that is curating and conserving children's art?
No, there are, I would say, a handful around the world. Some
I
of them
love
are
it.
very specialized. I would say that the bulk of them had been developed out of events like festivals, art competitions, art
Correct.
contests, and
Mm.
so on.
Mm.
And a few of them also had been initiated out of a personal interest of a family, an individual working with children, for example. And so their initial impulse was very focused, very narrow in what they were going to collect and why also.
Mm-hmm.
I also had noticed that as they evolve or how the way they were created, those many collections, an important one is in Sweden, Greece, one is in New York, another one in Illinois in the States. Oftentimes, unfortunately, they were not built as an archives per se. So the concerns about documenting the provenance and having a thorough documentation of the origin of the work had not necessarily been done the way we think an archive should be doing. So we made it a point to position ourselves as a research archives and to have a very broad mandate in terms of the variety of work that we would have in the collections. So you will not find in our collections the primary color, cute, typical little landscape or family drawings necessarily. You will see some of those, but we really collect from the early years scribbles to the doodles to the schoolwork, and we really embrace them all in whatever context the child was making the image at the time.
Oh my gosh, you must be having quite a collection and you must be requiring a lot of space to keep all of that.
The reason why we took good care in the planning process of all this is that the minute I would discuss that before we implement everything, people would tell me, "You're crazy." Millions of them are being created every day. You're going to be receiving a tsunami of
Exactly,
images.
yeah.
But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that, oh, okay, well, no, we'll not swarm with offers and images and so on. What we
Hmm.
get is really, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then people think, okay, never heard of that before. Is that something, maybe people did not have a discussion with themselves and their kids before, should we or should we not contribute to these
Mm.
collections?
Mm. Mm.
It's also a long-term commitment. We are committed to preserving for perpetuity the items themselves, and also people sometimes keep their children's images at home. Sometimes they don't. The minute they realize, okay, that's interesting, people might say, um, okay, oh yeah, my kid's art is great. I'm gonna frame them. Just recently, I spoke to a teacher, a friend of mine, who's retired now and whose kids are grown up, and he's a granddad now. And I said, well, what are you waiting for? Well, I'm looking for some contribution from your family. He said, oh, my daughter framed them all. They're all on the wall. so they're all on the
So
wall at
there
this
goes your
point.
collection.
Yeah. So like I repeated to him, I said, well, okay, if it's good enough to be on the wall and it stays on the family wall forever, that's good. But what about the small piece that was on the fridge door for a month? What do you do with the images you don't keep or the family don't keep? And I fancy to tell families, we want your recycling bin. If you don't ever put your children's drawing in the recycling bin, if you're to put them in the recycling, send them to us. We will take them.
Oh my gosh, I'm very, very curious to know. So, okay, right. So, Leo, I'm very curious to understand how, when a child's drawing comes to you, say from the recycle bin or from a family, how do you go about conserving it? How do you go about preserving the paper, the actual paper?
Okay, well, before the preservation part, there is the collecting part. So that drawing has to make its way to us. And we are asking families to mail it, to snail mail us the item. We are
Hmm.
collecting the original object. Uh, usually in paper form. And
Mhm.
the reason why it's important for us to have the object itself is really for conservation purposes. First of all, when we do have the original object, we can look at it. We can actually see the size of the image, the material it's made with. And we also have control over the quality of the scanning, the quality of the digital image that we're going to have. So
Mhm.
we do scan and digitize the object ourselves. There will be no point for us to collect only digital born images like JPEG that will be sent out. There's information missing of the size, um, you know, confirming the provenance and the authorship of the image.
Mhm.
We might in the future accept, images made directly from tablets or computers and so on. We haven't
Okay.
got into that right now. We're really busy right now collecting real paper or cardboard format images. But people have to mail them to us.
Okay.
Should we have some kind of an agreement or a partnership with a school or a daycare or a kindergarten? I mean, an organization like that could collect a bunch of images for us with the form, because with each image, each object, there is a contribution form. And the contribution is form is essential. It is the consent form of making the contribution. So the form is really the parental consent or the adult consent of making the contribution to the collection. And of course, we enter and collect all the data from the contribution form also.
Mhm.
So once we have that, then, like I said, we digitize images for the digital database, and we store them in a archival box or archival folder. If it's an
Mhm.
oversized, we have like those large folders where we put the images. And then once we know it's safe and we have documented the entry in the database, then we're ready to um, add it to the collection online. We have like an online repository right now, and we also have like a physical repository. We have like an account with a commercial uh, information management company. uh, we do not have like a partnership of institutional archives at this point. We did
Okay.
approach, some institution like universities and municipal archives for the repository, but the reply we got from them usually is, "Oh, we hardly have enough space for our own collection." So
Mhm.
that's the kind of response we have. So okay, we said let's go commercial and use like a commercial service for the storage
Mhm.
itself.
Lovely. Uh, I have a question about when you collect the art material. Uh, do you also request the parents to continue giving the same child's art material, over the years? Do you keep a record of that one child, or is it just, a collection?
It is up to the family. It is up to the parent. We do have one families in the collection who's given over the years. The kids are grown up now. They're in their mid late 20s. And we had images from them from 20, 25 years ago. And
Oh,
now they're
wow.
grown up. If I see a pattern, not yet. We're still young. It's still just a few years. So it's still young. Um, we even encourage people to wait. If they don't feel ready, if the parents are not ready, the kids are not ready, what we tell them is we encourage them to keep it, to preserve, even if they're to make the decision later in life. So even if they wait the kids to be grown up, that's fine. I
Mhm.
mean, even if they've kept it for 20 years, of course, they have to keep it well. We have some of the items were stored in the attic or the basement or not very well taken care of over
Right.
the years, so they
Yeah.
are damaged a little bit. And some of the paper used sometimes is not as of use in terms of the durability of the paper that is used. So, um, you know, um, but the story that I've heard often is that mothers are key. Mothers sometimes keep material. They keep the Mother's Day card,
Yes.
the birthday cards and so on. So what I hear often when I talk to people, and that happened to my own mom, and that happened to some of the moms I know, they keep that in a box, in a drawer, in the cupboard, or in the.
Yes.
And eventually they show it to their kids. And what I've seen is that sometimes the kids like it, they take it, and sometimes they don't really care about it. And that's the whole story. The relationship we have as adults to our childhood and to childhood. And that varies from families to family, from individual to individual. If you go to our YouTube channel, we had a few interviews of artists who had childhood material. And one of them was quite interesting, said, hey, my parents divorced, we moved around. I have very little from my childhood. I had 2 homes and so on. But his own mom eventually showed him something he had done when he was a child. And he said he was keeping this so preciously because that was one of the rare memorabilia he had from childhood. While other people would say, take it a little lightly. I don't remember making this drawing. They totally forgot what it was about. Some have a strong emotional connection to childhood. And some other people kind of moved on, and my childhood is far back behind me. And also what I've seen young adults rediscovering childhood as they have children. So, some people might have, not remembering their childhood so much, but then all of a sudden they have kids, and whoa, it's all coming back to them because they see their kids growing up and they go, oh, I remember this and I remember this. And then all of a sudden childhood become very important in their lives again. It really varies. I have seen many, many times, people who told me, hey, my mom gave me a box and I've had all those things from my childhood. So mothers are really doing the work. And actually, I'm going to tell people, if you have a parent who's 70 years old and older, or if yourself, you are 70 years old older, you might still have things from your childhood, even at a late in life. And in our collections right now, we don't have much from the 1950s. So anybody who's 70 years old and older might have something that would help our collection to have items from the 1950s. We have some items as far back as the 1940s. We have quite a few from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. But the 50s, we're still keeping an eye open to see how could we find something from the 50s. That's where we're at right now. We also are still small. So we have been limiting ourselves to 2-dimensional objects, so really flat paper, cardboard, for practical reasons and financial reasons at this point. We do have both very tiny object, that big, and we have very large object, like large size object. Not as large as, for example, a mural. We're not preserving a mural at this point.
You would really fall short of space.
Yeah. So, but we do have all size and all formats. We do have drawings, paintings, collage. We have crayon drawing. We have marker drawing. We have pencil drawings. We have things as simple as just a regular pencil little drawings. We even have unfinished drawings in the collections.
All right.
We have some of the pieces, they are drawings that a child started but never finished. And we keep it. We keep it too.
Let's take a break to understand what Juzuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state-of-the-art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chizuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chizuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with non-profit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chizuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chizuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest.
Right. I have also kept my son's drawings, doodles and paintings and drawings. And then he looks at the box and he says, "Why have you kept all this junk?" And I say, "It's not junk to me. It's very precious to me." So if I ask you the larger picture of, the objective of collecting all these artwork, where do you see this going? What do you hope to achieve out of this?
Okay. There are two. One of them is fun because it's pleasant to look at. It makes your heart melt sometimes to look at those
Yes,
images.
absolutely.
So that's one of the two. That's just the enjoyment of it. I've seen so many of them disappear. I see them passing by, and they just vanish into nowhere. I've seen also some kids' art exhibitions sometimes here and there in the cities, like a little activity, school outings, and so on. It lasts the time it lasts, and then it just vanishes. And I think of those kids, who took part in that community event or that school event and so on, and kids whose mother may keep them, and kids whose mother may not keep them either. And sometimes it's the kids themselves who wants to keep it. So fun is really an important aspect of it. The
Right.
other one is science. The other one is humanities. The other one is building a bulk of knowledge, because for us it's visual culture, it's visual knowledge. And yes, individually an image might be of little significance, but you put all of them together and then you compare them and you curate them. And we made a point to have a searchable with an advanced search tool in the database, so that when you type cat, you get a whole bunch of cats. When you go by age, you want to search by age. And so it becomes a library, it becomes a research tool. And as we grow, and hopefully, we'll get into the thousands soon, people will be able to come to the collection to say, hey, I'm looking for examples of cars, drawing by kids, and then you can have the cars from over the generations, for example. It becomes an information document. Let's say even artists themselves, it's well known that artists, well, I would say modern artists, some of them have been influenced by children and children's art. So even artists, can get inspiration from this.
True.
Even historians might say, hey, that's interesting. This drawing depicts a tradition, or this drawing depicts a family event, and that's unique to a culture, for example. So it really becomes a visual resource, a visual information database,
Very true. Yes.
which I hope that historians, anthropologists, even developmental psychologists eventually will say, hey, yeah, I've used, children's drawing in therapy sessions, or I know that specific cultures have specific ways to relate to art and art making in their traditions. For example, mandala is one of the examples I can come up with.
Yes. Yes.
So we really want to grow the collection, and for both fun and for research purposes. And we do have like, an outreach committee, and we want to get into the conversation with researchers, because more and
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
researchers also do action research, and they get their participants involved in participating in the research. So we do have only one. I mentioned my teachers from 40 years ago, and I do have some images, little pencil images that were made during those family counseling sessions with that teacher of mine. And she's one of the first one I talked about this collection idea. I'd say like I talked to her about like more than 20 years ago. And I said, I want to do this. And she brought me a little envelope. She said, Leo, here's a few images for you. Go ahead. You have my blessing, she said. And so I kept those few images very preciously, and they are now in the collection. They were made by children 3 and 4 years of age, and they were made in the early 80s. These images, particularly, they were made in 1979, 1980, 1981. So you see, there are images made 40 years ago, but you compare them with children's making the same type of image today, and you go, hey, did children change? Because in society, childhood is not experienced the same way over the generations.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it also becomes, for me, part of an intergenerational conversation we can have. And and I do believe that the 20th century was the golden age of children's drawing. That's my personal belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel kind of sorry that so many of them disappeared. So I made it like a little bit of my own um, uh, pilgrimage, to say, okay, here's my little contribution. Let's try to salvage as many of them as possible. That's
Oh,
it.
that is beautiful. That is beautiful. So, Leo, would you collect drawings from children all over the world, or is there a geographical jurisdiction which you have limited yourself to?
We put the international in our name because of that. We do think that, yes, what we see as an urgent need to save as many pictures as possible, for me, it's true for anywhere, for everybody, for every culture around the world. And I'm talking about those mundane children's activity and school activities and so on. And not necessarily, and we've seen that too, we've seen, specific groupings of drawings, or let's have the kids draw about environment, about water.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have drawing tell us how they experience the pandemic. We've all seen these kind of initiatives. It's all fine. It's good. We want to hear and we want to see what the kids have to tell us about our social experience as well. But again, the collection is not only about major events in the world and how the kids feel about it. We are interested in the intimate, the personal expression, what the child is experiencing in the family, in the village, at school, really the perspective from the child, not just of major events, but of the child's day-to-day activities and events itself. One little picture that we added just last summer to illustrate what I'm saying is a cute little picture from a school activity, and it was the request to the children was draw something about somebody who helped you. So it was about helping each other. And that picture is in the collection. It's from Claire Chambers. She's grown up now. Picture was made some 20 years ago. And she was wearing this dress with flowers, and the dress got caught in a tree. So a tree was kind of the dress was stuck in the tree branches.
Okay.
And her father came to help free the dress and not damage the dress, right? So for that little girl, that the dress was saved, was
Yeah.
was key. So she drew herself by the tree, and you see the tree, and it's funny because the little leaves on the tree mimic the flowers on the dress, and then you get the little girl and the tree stuck together, and then the dad coming with a big smile and helping his daughter, to free herself from the tree. And to me, that's a very cute little moment. It's an interaction between father and daughter,
Absolutely.
and there's nature in the picture as well. And there's this whole dynamic of something. There's a story there. Hey, my dress got stuck, and my dad came out and helped me out. You know.
Yeah, what a vivid
So
memory.
yeah, and it is not like a world event, but it's in the life of that little girl that day at school. That's what she picked as an event, a story that was significant in her life. And to me, that speaks a lot of the
Emotion.
outlook kids have on things. And there are
Absolutely.
many stories in the collection. We have nearly 600 pieces now in the collection. So, and each of them is a
Wow.
little moment, is a little story, right?
Right. Have you ever had an exhibition of your collection?
Not yet, not an exhibition per se. Although, yeah, I would say it's not really our mandate to conduct art exhibit, but
Mm-hmm.
when we do show collections item, it's really with the message, hey, think of preserving what you've got at home. This is family heritage. And if you need help, we're here to help to preserve, what was
Mm-hmm.
made at home. So we do have our first ever exhibition. It's really a participatory exhibition. We
Mm-hmm.
have a partner. Because we don't have our own space. We partner with a child care center. It's the University of Guelph Child Care and Learning Center.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small building. They have 8 classrooms plus 2 other common spaces. So altogether, there's 10 rooms. And for 5 days in June, I don't want to miss the June 10 to June 14th coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We're not only going to display some of our own original items in the spaces,
Mm-hmm.
the childcare will also create and produce works, and each of the space will have frames, and the frames will be able to include several drawings.
Mm-hmm.
They can be
Okay, the
replaced every
folder.
day. And
Okay,
every day, every morning, the kids themselves in their classroom will curate what they're going to show that day.
interesting.
So over the course of 5 days, every day there'll be new images being shown, and the children themselves, preschoolers, will be part of the discussion. What are we showing today? What are we looking at today? And then discuss about the images that they had made themselves. So we're going to do that in June. It's the first time we're going to do an activity like that, and
Mm-hmm.
we look forward to it. We are currently in the planning process of the activity again.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there's anything online, I would be very interested in seeing that too. Lovely.
Yeah, I we will suddenly digitize the image that we're going to be showed live, and we will probably also have them available on the dedicated web page as
Awesome.
well during the event. I do hope we'll see if we have the funding. We're still fundraising for it. I do hope to have also maybe a guest speaker online to discuss with the early child educators,
Mm-hmm.
and I do hope to have also maybe a social media game for families and parents
That would be
just
lovely.
before the event, to do something online, something fun that the families can do at home as well during
That would
that
be
event.
great, great. I wish you luck with all of that, and I wish you success with that beautiful program that's coming up. Leo, let's talk about volunteering. Let's talk about you've had an experience with Chizuba, right? In terms of taking help with the virtual volunteering. What kind of help do you require with your organization, and how can somebody who is interested in helping out help out?
We wouldn't do anything without the volunteers. We really volunteers is the life and blood of what we do. We do have volunteering opportunities, for example, in helping us with the social media accounts. So anybody's, people very skillful with managing either an Instagram account or LinkedIn account, even a Facebook account. So that's early on, our online presence has always been very strong, and
Mm,
we do require some help in that field. We When we do display, because we had done some partnership before, not an exhibition per se, but we had displayed portfolio. So we have shown our collections. We have like large portfolios, and we have a volunteer having a table and showing what we do and explaining the mission to people. We have done that with local libraries. So we had
mm-hmm,
volunteers with the agreement of libraries going to sit for a few hours and talk to library users. We've
mm,
done that at a conference also. So with the permission of conference organizers, we can also have a little table and a stand and showing what we
sure.
do. So sometimes we do have like two volunteers rotating during an event like this.
Great. Sure.
We have committees, so we are still building our committees. We have a fundraising committee. We have an outreach and professional and community outreach. So anyone in the, from an educational background or social science background, who wants to do like networking with people in their field, we do have this outreach committee to work with. Our very busy small committee this past year is the uh, data management committee.
Mm-hmm.
So our data management committee really this past year was key to making sure that our scanning was going smoothly, that our partnership with Archeon, which is from the Ontario Archivist Association, because our online repository, we are a member of these associations of archives, and we are currently on a shared server. So
Okay.
the association is really providing us with technical assistance with the database management online. We use a database that is from a software, a database management called Atom, Access to Memory. It's a specific software,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we use with the. It's like a shared server with other archives as well.
Got it.
So the data committee is also welcoming people with information management knowledge and background,
Skills. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
of course fundraising. Like I said, with our event, we do not have like a public operating funding, so we go project to project, and we are certainly in need of people helping us with fundraising, identifying funding sources, writing up requests. Sometimes it's letter of request, sometimes it's online forms.
So,
So fundraising
yes.
committee, people with a background in either accounting or marketing or you know this kind of skills certainly can join the fundraising committee definitely.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So this is a call to everybody out there who is listening. All the help that is required, please go ahead and volunteer. I'd be happy to do something. I'll reach out to you after the podcast. So,
Definitely.
Leo, I am going to ask you a few fun questions. I know you answered this question about Claire, who talked about her vivid memory with her father and her dress getting stuck in the tree. But a few more, if you could answer. What is the most unexpected story that you have encountered behind a child's artwork?
um the most unexpected story. Well, I have one that pops up in my mind. It's a recent image. It was
Uh-huh.
actually it's Sahana, the daughter of one of the mother, the found in the collection.
Mm-hmm.
And the pandemic started in a very tricky time for us because, as we said, we were founded in 2018, and
Mm.
2 years later we were busy,
Correct.
building the
Yes.
policies, and then the year we were about to go out and reach out and meet people, then the pandemic happened. So we
Mm.
had to focus very much on online activities, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, we had no choice really. But during the pandemic, we had a contributor, and she had us meeting, the summer camps and her children, and she has two children, and her daughter made a picture, and it really looked like a flower. It's at the upper corner of the image,
Okay.
and it looks like a flower. It has like tiny petal looking things, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
brown. There's a lot of brown.
Okay.
And you would look at it and you would think, well, it's kind of a flower without the stem. That's what you would think.
Okay.
But then I had the opportunity. We had like a Zoom meeting with a few kids and the contributors. We had like a family
Hmm.
uh, camp kind of activity online. And then I had the chance to have the child online
Talk
with me.
about.
And
Yes.
then I asked, because I had received the form, the image, we had the object. I asked her, what is it really? And she had made it like a few weeks or a couple of months prior to that. And she said, this is an adventurous place. That's what she
Okay.
said. That's what was her answer. It was not a flower. She said, this is an adventurous place. So we took the answer as what it is, and that's the name of the object in the collection right now. It's the adventurous place.
Oh, wow.
And this is the illustration of what that child conceived to be. Hey, this is adventure.
Yeah.
So probably that, I don't know, maybe she made it improvising something with the pencils. Maybe she started something that she had not really finished, but she had already a
Mm.
mental
Mm.
image of it. But
Yes.
when she said, this is an adventurous place, I thought it was so poetic.
Yeah, it's, I can
I thought
imagine.
it was I
Sometimes,
thought it was poetry in it, and I thought, okay, here's what it is. If
yeah,
anyone tells me this is a flower, I'm gonna say, no, this is not a flower. This is an adventurous place. So
fantastic.
that's
Yeah,
it, and it's a very simple image, and I mean, to me, it was very fun. It was a fun moment as well to share.
absolutely. Yes, yes. Sometimes answers can really flummox you. You don't know what to expect. True. And if you were to try recreating any of the children's artworks yourself, which one would it be?
If I was to create
To recreate,
to
for example, if
recreate,
this recreating the adventurous place, if you were to recreate it, how would you recreate it?
how would I recreate the adventurous place? My, I'm gonna be very spontaneous. I would replace the brown color with another color. That's what I would do. I would not use the brown.
Just goes to show, how children think and how adults think is very, very different. Absolutely.
And not to leave her
Well,
little brother, not to leave her little brother aside, because
uh-huh.
he might listen to this podcast. Her
Okay.
little brother had also a very fun piece. It's a
Uh-huh.
it's a it's a Halloween piece. It's a collage, pumpkin, orange paper stuck glued to the paper, but it's also very poetic, and it says, "Pumpkin, I leave you."
Okay.
And that's I thought was also very poetic. Pumpkin, I leave you.
I-
Live. So instead of I love you, I leave you.
Is it
And I thought
lovely?
this is
Yeah.
great. This is like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
Wonderful. So, Leo, you spoke about your upcoming event in June, and is there something that is coming closer to, February, March, April? Is there something that happens at a smaller scale also?
Yeah, we are currently, it's just started a month ago. We are partnering with it's called the Research Shop. It's a service at McMaster University here in Hamilton. And
Mm-hmm.
they provide a research team. They provide a small team that will work on a specific project, and we're partnering with them. The team was just meeting just a couple of weeks ago for the first time. The five postgraduate students, graduate and postgraduate students, five of them,
Okay.
and they are multidisciplinary psychology. They have public health and
Mm.
also public health, psychology, and sociology member in the team. And they're going to help us with a specific question, and they're going to create focus groups, surveys, and so on. We want to know a little more precisely what makes the parents preserving or not preserving the kids' images. So we're going to dig a little deeper into what are the barriers for families to keep their children's heritage or not to keep it. And after that project, I guess late in spring, early summer, we might have a small report from them to help us guide better into, okay, how do we address some of those barriers, and how do we find the most efficient way to reach out to families and adults and help us grow the collections. So this is very exciting. I'm sure they're going to do great work. It's going to be demanding a lot of external communication on their part in reaching out to a group of participants into that project. And yeah, in 6 months from now, I'll be able to tell you what the conclusions are.
Results, yeah. I would be very interested in knowing that. Well, Leo, thank you so much for talking to us. I've had fun talking to you on this episode today. These questions, actually, there are so many more questions I would like to ask, with regards to how do you make a child sit and draw? How do you interpret a child's drawing? There are so many questions, but then I think we'll stop here today and we can continue this talk maybe 6 months down the line. And I'd love to hear about the conclusions.
Thank you, Shizuba, for hosting me today. And thank you for the past project we had together, because we did have a project with Shizuba last year also, helping us with our fundraising strategies, actually, which was very useful.
Wonderful. Well, it was our pleasure entirely. So there you are, a kaleidoscopic gallery of boundless wonder created by youngest dreamweavers. They carry layers of social, historical, educational, and psychological significance, not to forget the fun value of it all. Thank you so much, and until next time, goodbye.